Welcome to another episode of the Best Damn Coach podcast. You guys, this is our first episode I am recording with our new setup. And you may not be able to see it because you're listening, but I want to encourage you to go to YouTube. We're trying to uplevel our game with video quality, and it is looking mighty clear and mighty awesome. And I'm so pumped that we're taking the next step to improve the quality of what we put out into the world. And so, welcome to this week's episode because we're talking deeper. We're taking really a deeper dive into frameworks and why they are key to you as a coach and the three key elements specifically of a framework today. And I want to share some backstory to this. This isn't the first time I've talked about frameworks on the show. In fact, I'm talking about them often because I found that it is one of the main problems that I solve with clients that really unblock them from so many other areas in their coaching business. Like the moment they have a framework, imposter syndrome starts to fade. They show up differently with their clients. Their clients start getting better results. They start showing up and talking about their business with more excitement and clarity, and honestly, just talking about their business. And all of that because they built a framework. And so remember, a framework is a step-by-step process that helps your clients get the result they came to you for. And really, a framework, if well done, is your own proprietary method. We've talked in earlier episodes, I'll link them in the show notes, around proprietary information, right? When we have our own thing and we talk about it, then that sets us apart from everybody else serving the niche that we are serving. And so we begin to look and feel different. You become the purple duck. And we like to build purple ducks in our world that stand out in a sea of yellow ducks. And because I've been talking so much about frameworks, I have had some great discussions with colleagues and have been interviewed on lots of podcasts around frameworks. And one of the things that I've noticed is that sometimes people think they have a framework and it looks really good on paper. And then when I start to unpack it with them or have conversations, what I really notice is they're fluffy. And again, we've talked about this, fluffy frameworks being frameworks that look good on paper, but they don't actually get clients results. And in fact, they don't really even have a note of your own signature proprietary method in them. And so that's why today I really want to pull out from this framework discussion a more detailed understanding of what the key elements are of a framework. The benefits of a framework, as I've already mentioned, exceed just the visibility piece, but they really leak into your coaching. And so I want you to understand the three parts, how I teach them, and why they are so critical in helping you elevate your brand and your coaching skill set. And so I'm going to use a framework to teach a framework, right? I love modeling, so this makes total sense. But I'm going to walk you through the three steps of what I teach inside the framework builder from a high level. So inside the lab, we take you through our three-part framework called the reverse design method. And this is a step-by-step framework that we use to help coaches create their signature process. And when we see a framework, sometimes we have like all these steps, and you're like, how do you break it down into just three steps, Amanda? Well, under this larger three-step umbrella is kind of like these baby steps. And inside the lab, I teach you how to break down these baby steps. But I want to go at it at a high level today and help you see the big picture. And so the first element of a strong framework, and by strong, I mean it delivers results, it's clear, it's concise, it is well articulated, is it actually starts in the end. So the framework actually isn't built from the beginning forward. The framework is built from the back, the final results, and then it's reverse engineered. Right. This is where I realized my skill set as an educator became so prevalent, is that's how I designed all the lessons. I would start with the exam. Actually, I would start with the end of semester exam and then break it down into units, and then take the unit exam and break it down into weekly milestones on quizzes. And then from there, take those weekly quizzes and break them down into lessons. And so all along the way, I was asking myself, how do I help the client, or in this case, the student, achieve that desirable result? The reason this is so critical and creates a strong framework is I've met a lot of coaches, and I've myself kind of have fallen into this along the way, is we just kind of dive into coaching. We're like, I know I can get them there, but for lack of a better word, you haven't figured out how to pace yourself through the sessions. And so you're like, we're going to get there. But all of a sudden, you sign this 6-month coaching container with your client and you get to 6 months and you're like, oh my gosh, I've only covered half the content. I need another 6 months. Meanwhile, you made this guarantee. And so what I want to help you understand is by starting in the end, we actually reverse engineer that pace. We set the cadence and we start to kind of get rid of the stuff that's nice to know, and we build in the steps that are need to knows. And sometimes those nice to knows can become bonus trainings you offer, bonus PDFs, downloadables, or something like that. But really, we're saying, like, what's the core thing that they absolutely have to have in this framework to achieve that desired result? Right. And so it's like, if they're going to lose 50 pounds, if they're going to get out of debt, if they're going to find their purpose, if they're going to get a yes from the adoption panel, like, what is the core things they have to know? And then reverse design those milestones around it. And so a strong framework actually is built with reverse design method, because we start in the end and then we go, oh yeah, I totally know where I'm going. And because I've set this pace with my client, I know that we're going to actually get there. And they're not going to be left like on this cliffhanger of like, oh, I'm so sad. It would have been really great. Can we just get like 3 more sessions? Instead, what I want you to do is know so clearly that you're going to get them to the result, and then have an intentional renewal conversation about the next level you can take them to. And that's another component, is don't feel obligated to cram it all into one coaching container, right? You might have multiple levels that exist in your coaching package. And so the first skill set can be, or goal can be achieved through the first coaching container. And then there can be more. Like, there's just so many opportunities to renew and grow the steps of your framework over time. So that's step 1. A strong framework is built from the end and moves forward. Step 2 is strong frameworks contain signature content. The reality for all of us is we are the unquestionable experts of our life. Nobody has gone through walked a mile in our shoes, has successfully achieved the results that we have. Even if you are somebody who's serving a former version of yourself, so your ideal client is like your old self, much like me talking to you. You guys are a former version of myself. And even if we've done this and we had coaches, mentors support us, like myself, nobody has done it quite like I have. Nobody has created like the specific steps along the way. A mentor might have said, hey, Amanda, do this. And then I've said, okay, but let me tweak it and make it my own. So the worst possible thing is for you to try to be a copycat, an exact replica of your mentor or your coach or the book you read. Instead, what we really want to say is, I had this kind of shell of a framework and like, I made it better for me, and here's how. And so when we stop leaning on how to learn, and instead learn on and lean on how did I do it, then we unpack this signature content. And signature content to me implies that it's unlike anybody else's. Like, it's mine. I created it. And signature content doesn't just mean the content I put on social media. I want that to be signature too, but I actually mean what happens inside the coaching container. So what you teach your clients, what you show your clients, the resources you build, the trainings you might use to supplement all of your coaching, perhaps, if that's what you have, or just the way and the style for which you coach inside of the coaching session. Are you trying to be somebody else, or are you trying to do it your way? And by being you, this is where business just becomes so much easier, is by being you. And even though we may struggle with this, is you're going to attract the right person for you. So if we try to do it like somebody else, if we try to build content in a framework like somebody else, we're actually going to end up attracting the not ideal client. And we don't want that. And so that's where we have to take a step back and go, oh, but like, actually walking through my steps in the process are going to serve me in the highest possible way, because I'm going to be able to attract the right person who's going to have success through this process with me. And that's challenging, because we've all probably done certifications or gone through trainings where those people have handed us exact frameworks or exact methodologies. And while those do serve us, because I have some of them in my back pocket, then I had to ask, but if I do that, then I'm just going to be like the other 1,000 people that graduated from that same program. So how can I take those learnings and then dial them in and weave them into my coaching in the most powerful way possible? So strong frameworks have signature content, not watered down versions of what other people are doing. Next is a strong framework has a visual representation. And I learned the power of this when I was teaching, because when I would collect my students' tests, I started seeing like in the margins, they had drawn the diagrams that I had used throughout my lessons, and ways that I would help them remember processes and maybe a lot of formulas. And so I started seeing these little triangles and circles and Venn diagrams. I was like, oh, wow, okay. This is our brain. And before I was deep diving into coaching, I didn't really know the power of the visual recall that we have, right? We remember through pictures, all of us, or we have, I should say, internal representations associated with pictures. And so if I say the word ladder right now, you have some sort of picture that comes up in your mind, which is different than my picture. And so if we give if we give an entire webinar and we presented frameworks inside of it, no doubt they may not recall the words, but if we splash the same visual image over and over, they're going to remember the picture. And that's where frameworks can be so powerful. Your brand begins to be associated with that visual, or the name of the framework even. And so we want to make sure that your framework has a visual representation that's not super fancy and have all these complex, pieces to it, but actually quite simple and follows along with the outcomes that are created throughout the framework. And this is, again, something that we teach inside the BDC. In fact, two things. It's one of the culminating steps that I teach. And we also give templates as a bonus inside when you sign up, so that you can go into Canva and you can already take some of the visual templates that we've created and help you just kind of brand it and make it your own, so that it really feels complete when you are wrapping up the completion of your entire framework. So strong frameworks have some sort of simple visual that helps the reader or your potential client understand the outcome, and really simplifies. By seeing the visual, it takes this solution that you're selling, this problem that they're trying to solve, and it actually demystifies it. It says, like, look, it's this easy. Like, we're just going to do this in 3 steps. And I know those 3 high level steps, and I'm going to be able to guide you through it effortlessly. And so what we're doing is we're increasing the perceived likelihood of achievement as a coach. And that is what will help the prospective client say yes to your coaching. And I've even had clients come through the FBL and say, like, my visual I created in the FBL closed a deal, closed a client. In particular, one comes to mind. She was on a sales call. She had just finished the FBL. The client was like, I kind of get it. She was like, let me show you the framework. They were on a Zoom call, and she popped her framework visual up, which was kind of like I would say, an ascending ladder pyramid. And right away, the client was like, oh my gosh, I get it. I totally am all in, and signed this high ticket client right away. And so there's so much power in seeing the pathway ahead. And that's what the visual inside of your framework does. And by the way, I don't even think I've mentioned this yet on this episode, but the Framework Builder Independent Study is live, which I'm so excited about. So we had so many questions when we were doing the live, the cohorts, like, can I just buy this and like go at my own pace? Do I have to attend the live sessions? And so I was like, I'm getting there. And so we wanted to run 100 students through the Framework Builder Lab until we created the independent study. So drum roll, please. Framework Builder Independent Study is available, and you can also upgrade into the live coaching experience as well. And so either way, you'll get access to all of the beautiful new trainings that we've made, all the bonuses that are including the templates I mentioned. I'm also throwing in a delivery template, so you can like map out your entire coaching program with dates, times, etc., as a bonus. And you get access to all those things. And then if you also want access to the live coaching element, you can upgrade your experience to FBL Live. And so now we get to help all of you in different ways, which we're very, very excited about. So if you want to learn more about that and jump in, you can head on over to amanda-walker.com/lab, and you can sign up for the FBL right now. And then you get access to our ongoing Framework Builders Society, where we're all the coaches building all the frameworks and asking questions. That way you can be supported as well. I digress. Going back. Um, I want to hit on the weak frameworks and just call them out. Obviously, we would say strong frameworks are the opposite of weak frameworks, but I want to call it a couple things that exist inside of what I would call weak frameworks, just to tell you some of my firsthand experiences. So, I am a part of this amazing program or was a part of this amazing program to support my spiritual growth this year. And it's my first time ever investing in something that's like very spiritual driven. And I got on, and the woman leading is just brilliant. So much good stuff. So much was like poured into so much content. And I found myself taking frivolous notes, and at the end feeling a little bit like I was in college, kind of like, oh my gosh, I didn't absorb as much as I possibly could, because there was no visual, there was no framework. It was a little bit like bouncing around. I don't know if you've ever been in a room with a speaker and they have all this energy and passion. They're doing so great, but then they're like ping ponging all around and there's no clear, coherent structure to it. A weak framework does lack that structure, and it lacks the consistent step by step processes necessary to go out and then apply the practices. So I was thinking, after going through, I'm like, oh my gosh, if she had a high level framework for this whole thing, it would be so beautiful. I reached out to her. I was like, let me support you. This could be magical. And so weak frameworks lack that structure and that clear overarching process. And I don't want your clients to be like, she's so great and there could have been so much more. I'm kind of lost. Weak frameworks lack the tangible outcomes. And so a lot of times, I had a question recently on one of my webinars because I said, I'm not a huge fan of acronym frameworks. And it's not that it's a no, it's that the acronym needs to be intentional around the results that are curated. In fact, I don't want it to be the other way around. And here's what I usually find. You you find the clever possible acronym, and then you force words into the acronym to make it sound good, to be on brand. In fact, that does not do you any good. It doesn't make you have a memorable framework. It really waters down your framework. And a framework should be named actually to convey an outcome. And a framework really has two lines. It has a headline, the reverse design method, and it has a byline, a step-by-step framework for coaches to build their signature coaching framework. So when I see that, I know exactly what it's for, right? It's not like I don't know, the signature method, because then it's a little bit more loose, right? I could use the byline to describe it, but I'm also not trying to call it the framework method, where framework represents an acronym and I'm spelling out what the F, the R, the A, like that's just messy and it really doesn't serve us. And so there's often times where I dive into frameworks with clients and they're like, oh, it's this. And I'm like, yeah, but tell me about the tangible outcomes, not just empowerment, but like, what does empowerment mean? If that's your high level, like, what are they doing inside of the word empowerment to actually achieve a desired outcome? And I think that's where many coaches create weak frameworks, or they think they have a framework, but they don't really, because there's no tangible results inside. And if you're stuck and you're like, I don't know, get what that means, don't worry. That's why I teach this and I give specific examples inside the FBL so that you can see what tangible results mean. I even give you a working template. So as we go through the process, you're able to fill in the blanks. You also get access to some of our live replays. So you can hear me coach some of the clients live, and you're able to hear through my coaching. And then if you upgrade, of course, you and I can work on this live together in one of our open coaching sessions, which are every Wednesday. So I leave you today with really just reflecting on, if you don't have a framework, what's stopping you, right? Even if you're just starting out, even if you don't think you've coached enough clients, I promise you have a methodology. I help you pull it out inside the lab. And if you have a framework, my question to you is it a strong one? Or do you have an opportunity to grow it? And I guarantee jumping into the FBL will be one of the best investments you've ever made in your entire coaching career because A, it's a low price point investment. And B, we just cover so much in order to build the framework. We don't just build the framework, we do the root work. Like, what's the problem it solves? We talk about messaging, knowing your client, because all of those are keys in building a strong framework before you actually build the framework first. So again, two things. I'd love to have you in the FBL. It is new and improved, and it's going to rock your socks off. And you can join us at amanda-walker.com/lab. And then I'll also put the link in the show notes. If you've never attended my weekly workshop I host on Tuesdays, How to Build Your Signature Framework, I'd love to have you. You can come in. I'll walk you through the steps, and you can sign up for that training at amanda-walker.com/framework. So until next time, friends, keep rocking, keep coaching them up. And I cannot wait to see you in the lab if you're brand new. And if you have any questions, of course, reach out to us on social at awalkmyway on Instagram, and head on over to our YouTube channel to actually see the new setup. So we'll see you again next week.